Good afternoon. My name is Kim Jang-moo from Robot Association. Thank you for coming. This is SI seminar. Despite your busy schedule, all the participants, thank you for joining us. I cannot introduce every single one of the presenters, but I'd like to introduce Mr. Kim Hwang-keum from the Korea Association of Robot Industry. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
Well, good afternoon. As introduced, I'm Kim Young. I'm Vice Chairman of the Robot Association of Korea. I'm taking this paper out, but not to bore you with a long speech, but I really have a short memory, and to prevent me from making mistakes, I always write names down. Chairman Moon of my association should be here, but unfortunately, he had an overlap of schedule. So he has another seminar, then he need to attend at the second floor of this building. So we each took one. So I think it was around this time last year. Our organization was born. So not only the robot makers, but with SI vendors, we need to work together to expand the market and also to grow the industry through synergistic effect. But for the government and also with apology, our association, there have been too much focus on the manufacturers, and when it comes to SI vendors, we need to always work in partnership. We didn't pay due attention. So with apologies, given that we have partnership now solid in place, and we will do our part so that we can really have a win-win partnership to grow together. So we will say what needs to be said to the government, and I hope that the promotion, the Korea Institute for Robot Industry Advancement would also give their input to create more constructive policies, and we will do our best. I would like to thank today's presenters, Mr. Chun Jin-woo from Korea, and also Research Lee Jae-sun from the Korean Institute of Industrial Technology, as well as Professor Park Jae-yeon, who's also going to lead the panel discussion. Thank you very much for your attendance. Again, we'll do our best to support SI companies as much as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to explain about the schedule for today, and then we'll begin seminar right away. For part one, we'll have a seminar. From Malaysia, we have a president, Dr. Baharin, from Malaysia Robotics and Automation Society, and he will talk about the current status of Malaysia's robotic SI market and the Korea-Malaysia cooperation for about 30 minutes. And after that, we will have Policy Director Chun Jin-woo from Korea, and he's gonna tell you about the Korea robot SI market. And then Senior Researcher Lee Jae-sun from the Korea Institute of Industrial Technology, and we'll talk about the robot engineering consulting service. And then Korean SI market and its challenges and its future development will be the theme of the following discussion. Let's start seminar now. We will invite President Dr. Marin from Malaysia Robotics and Automation Society. It is via video.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Iskandar Baharin. I'm the president of the Malaysia Robotics and Automation Society. On behalf of my association, MyRust, I would like to thank Robot World for giving me this opportunity to talk on a very important topic called Malaysian Robot Systems Integration Market and Korea-Malaysian Cooperation. As we all know, we are all facing a very difficult time in the COVID-19 pandemic situation. The situation has caused a lot of our businesses to slow down, or some of our businesses has to close, and causing some of us to explore new businesses, new markets, and new partners. So I hoped in my presentation I will be able to share with you the potential of how our Malaysian robot systems integration market can be of opportunity for our Korean SI partners, and how Korea and Malaysia can establish a very good cooperation in expanding our market and also establishing a new business model after the COVID-19 pandemic in the near future. I would like to share with you a promotional video from our Malaysia Industrial Investment Agency, or MIDA, which will try to describe to you on why Malaysia is a very good destination for your foreign direct investment. I hope from the promotional video it will convince you that Malaysia is a very good FDI destiny for companies from Korea.
MIDA presents Malaysia's Investment Performance Report 2018. As an investor, Daniel is looking towards Asia. He considers Malaysia because of its vibrant economic development. To find out more about Malaysia's investment performance, he heads to the Business Information Center at MIDA. The duty officer, May, shares the Investment Performance Report for 2018 with Daniel, and key information such as the overview and updates on Malaysia's economy. As a whole, the economy grew by a commendable 4.7% in 2018. With excellent rankings, this competitive environment has allowed many reputable global businesses to thrive. Overall, Malaysia had 4,887 approved projects, which created 129,780 job opportunities. This attracted 201.7 billion ringgit in investments, with 39.9% from foreign investors, just like Daniel. He is impressed to see these results and decides to take a closer look at the performance of Malaysia's three key sectors: manufacturing, services, and primary. Malaysia remains a competitive location for the manufacturing sector, with foreign investments contributing 66.4% of approved investments, and the rest from domestic investments. The services sector showed a strong domestic performance of 84.1%, with subsectors like healthcare, education, and real estate increasing in investments. Through Malaysia's Principal Hub Scheme, some companies will set up their regional and global businesses in Malaysia, with committed business spending of 7.13 billion ringgit and 698 high-value job opportunities. For the primary sector, the mining subsector took the lead, with 26 projects and 10.2 billion ringgit worth of approved investments. Each sector looks very promising. May adds, many companies like Torre Plastics, Leaf Opco, ST Microelectronics, Acre Solutions, GKN Aerospace, and JobStreet continue to expand in Malaysia. Wonderful! Daniel thanks May for her help. He's glad to have a better understanding of the investment performance and can't wait to invest in Malaysia. He agrees that Malaysia continues to be a profit center in Asia, especially with the improving ease of doing business in the country and better governance structures. Malaysia looks forward to more quality investments that inspires technological transformation and supports investors to leverage on growing opportunities within the country. To find out more, log on today. Inspiring technological transformation.
In Malaysia, we have a national policy on Industry 4.0, which is being defined by our Industry Forward Blueprint document. The Industry Forward Blueprint document defines Malaysia's vision for the manufacturing sector in the next 10 years. Our Industry Forward Blueprint document defines the vision to make Malaysia as a strategic partner for smart manufacturing and related services in Asia Pacific. Our second vision is to make Malaysia as the primary destination for high-tech industry. And our third vision is to make Malaysia as the total solutions provider for advanced technology. In trying to achieve these three visions, we have defined four main goals to support the vision. Number one, we have to ensure our goals in labor productivity growth, our goals in manufacturing contribution to the economy, our goals in ensuring innovation capacity, and finally our goals in high-skilled jobs. In order to achieve our goals, we have defined three shift factors to be done in Malaysia. Number one, there should be a shift factor in terms of people, there should be a shift factor in terms of process, there should be a shift factor in terms of technology. In order to support the vision, the goals, and the shift factors, our Industry Forward Blueprint has identified 5 enablers. Enabler number one is funding as our enabler. Number 2, infrastructure as our enabler. Number 3, regulation as our enabler. Number 4, skills and talent as our enabler. And number 5, technology as our enabler. So my advice to Korean systems integrator who wants to come to Malaysia and enter into the market, it's important for you to understand how our funding works for Industry 4.0, how our infrastructure is being organized, how our regulation is being organized, what is our skills and talent pool that we have in Malaysia, and what are the current technology that we have in Malaysia to support your collaboration and also your investment into Malaysia. Our systems integration market for Malaysia can be defined in terms of 5 industry sectors. In Malaysia, the greatest industry sector that has contributed to the growth of our national gross domestic product is number 1, our services sector. The services sector is one of the highest contributor to our national GDP, and this represents an opportunity for robotics and automation SI to focus on. The second sector is our manufacturing sector, followed by construction, mining and quarrying, and also agriculture. Typically, a lot of the robotics and automation systems integrator has been focusing on the manufacturing sector. But slowly, we are seeing a lot of Malaysians systems integrator are now looking into services, construction, mining and quarry, and also agriculture. It is also very important for our systems integrator in Malaysia to abide by the industry forward standards in order for them to compete globally. So my advice for Korean systems integrator who wants to enter into the Malaysian market, you might want to consider which sector is the most appropriate sector for you to come in. As I mentioned, services is one of the sector that is contributing the highest to our GDP. Second is manufacturing sector. Third is construction. Fourth is mining and quarrying. And number 5 is our agriculture. It's also very important that all the systems integrator players in Malaysia and also in Korea must be able to adopt and also to comply with the National Robotics and IR 4.0 industry standards in order to compete and also establish your business in Malaysia. Our Malaysian robot SI market is very focused on labor replacement market through automation projects for productivity gain. If you look at this diagram, our services sector currently employs over
여기
4.3
보시듯이
million
서비스 산업은
workers,
현재 430만의
followed
노동자를
by
고용하고
manufacturing,
있으며
which
그
employs over
다음에는
2.2 million workers,
220만의 제조업에
construction, which
고용되어
employs
있고
over 1.25 million workers, and also agriculture, which employs over 500,000 workers, followed by mining and quarry. If you look at the services sector, the highest sector that employs a lot of workers is the wholesale and retail trade. So this is also another sector that is looking for innovation and also automation. And this is also another area where systems integrator can play an important role in trying to reduce the dependency on labor. In the manufacturing sector, the electrical, electronics and optical products is hiring a lot of people, followed by petroleum, chemical, rubber and plastic products. So being a systems integrator, these are the areas that most of our systems integration in Malaysia is looking at trying to introduce robotics, automation and also IR 4.0 to help reduce the dependency of manufacturing on people, at the same time helping to help the manufacturing industry to increase the productivity through the adoption of technology. So my advice for the Korean systems integrator is to look into the services sector and also into the manufacturing sector as your starting point to explore collaboration into the SI market in Malaysia, focusing on the labor replacement projects. In Malaysia, our SI players are very focused and determined in providing robotics, automation, and IR 4.0 solutions to our local industry to help them achieve productivity gain. This productivity gain are usually achieved through number 1, building a workforce of the future, and number 2, driving digitalization and innovation in the company. So my advice for SI companies from Korea who wants to explore the Malaysian SI market, it's important to understand that in Malaysia, most of the company wants to adopt or wants to consider robotics, automation and IR 4.0 is because of the productivity pressure that they want to achieve against the competition globally now. So they are looking at how SI solutions can help their company achieve productivity through building future workers for their company so that they are able to compete in the market. And productivity gain number 2 is through driving digitalization and innovation in the companies. So all the solutions has got to be based on digital transformation and all that. So I suppose these are the main drivers of why companies in Malaysia are switching or adopting to technology to help them be more productive in their everyday business. This slide shows Malaysia's labor productivity per employee employed. So the number shows that our Malaysian labor productivity per person is currently at 68,473 US dollar per year, which means that one employee is able to produce for the company a sales volume of about $68,473 per year. So this shows that most of the Malaysian companies has already adopted uh, skilled worker process and technology that allows the productivity per employee to be high. But again, as Malaysian companies see that we are also watching Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam as our competitor in the labor productivity measurement. Also, we are looking at China because it's a very big market. So that's why maybe their labor productivity per person is low. But looking at the current trend that is happening, Malaysia is watching China and Vietnam as our benchmark and our competitor in the labor productivity per employee measurement. So this slide shows that our Malaysian labor productivity is close to Japan and Korea, which means that most of the Malaysian companies are able to absorb new technologies of robotics, automation, and IR 4.0 for them to be able to compete globally. This slide shows our industrial production index in Malaysia. This slide is very important for all our SI players in the market because it shows the Malaysia's industrial production index growth. In Malaysia, we have seen a positive growth of our IPI index based on the recent results in August 2020 is at 0.3%. The main contributor to our industrial production index growth is due to the growth in the manufacturing sector, which has contributed almost 2.4%. The other sectors are pulling it down, mining and electricity. If you were to study the manufacturing sector, if you break down the manufacturing sector, electrical and electronics production is contributing almost 7% growth to our national production index, followed by transport equipment and other manufacturings. This is mainly the automotive sector, followed by food, beverages and tobacco, and followed by petroleum, chemical and rubber and plastic products. So I can say these four manufacturing sector has shown a positive growth in Malaysia, meaning they continue to spend money on people, process and technology for their productivity. If you look at the other manufacturing sector like wood, furniture, paper products and price and printing, textile, wearing apparels and also non-metallic minerals and all that, it shows a negative growth in the IPI sector. So this shows that this sector, unfortunately, they are either overly dependent on people or they have not spent a lot of money in adopting new technology to help them increase their productivity. So my advice for SI players from Korea who wants to come to Malaysia and explore the SI market in Malaysia, you might want to consider looking at these four manufacturing sectors for you to enter, because these four manufacturing sectors, the electrical, electronics, transport equipment, food, beverages and also petrochemical, they already have the policy and also the market and also the motivation for them to keep on growing and increasing their productivity, and they will be able to understand better in terms of how to spend money in robotics, automation and IR 4.0. But not to forget, these other sectors are also willing to to change and transform themselves through their people, process, and technology. But they will need a bit more time because of the global demand in this sector, or that could be they are overly dependent on foreign labor and also overly dependent on the government subsidies and all that. So because when the government is having difficulty to give up more incentive and grant to this sector, so now they are struggling in terms of how to redefine back their industrial production growth index. So this slide, I think, is very important for SI companies and SI players to understand and decide their marketing strategy in terms of which are the markets that will be able to absorb the SI solutions for their company. This slide is also another view for SI players to understand, to see Malaysia's automation market growth for them to consider to enter and also to sell their solutions. In terms of the new hopes are the sectors that appear to have suddenly show a high expectation in them. So the new hopes for SI companies or for robotics, automation, and IR 4.0, I can say the food and beverages and chemical shows a new hope to adopt new technology. The solid bets, these are the companies or the sectors that appears to have consistently produce a stable income. These are the building as infrastructure, the electronics, and also building automation. And maybe the fallen from grace are the automotive, the palm oil, pharmaceutical, and also the oil and gas. So these are the companies that has slowly showing a decline in the margin, and also in the marketing capabilities and all that in Malaysia. So I was thinking to share this slide to show you another perspective for the SI market in Malaysia in terms of which are the new hopes for us in Malaysia, which are the solid bets for us in Malaysia, and which are the fallen from grace sectors in Malaysia. In terms of our Korea-Malaysia cooperation, I would like to highlight that there is already an established bilateral industrial cooperation agreement between our two countries. Under the BIC, the Korean government is represented by MOTI, and under the BIC agreement, Malaysia is represented by MITRI, which is our Ministry of Industrial Trade and International Trade and Industry. So based on the BIC agreement that was signed between our two countries, I think MOTI has appointed Kiria as the lead agency to work with MARI, which is the Malaysian lead agency for robotics and IR 4.0. MARI stands for Malaysia Automotive Robotics and IoT Institute. So MARI is our lead agency that actually takes charge of the growth of robotics and IR 4.0 industry in Malaysia. On the association side, CAR is actually working with MIRAS on the Malaysian side as an association, where CAR and MIRAS, we have both established an MOU between us to help our members, basically the SI members from CAR and also the SI members from MIRAS, to collaborate and to do business together between Korea and Malaysia. So at the association level, we have agreed to actually share in terms of the use cases between our countries, all the RFP that we have between our countries to facilitate business matching between our members, and also to facilitate a global certification program or skills training programs between Korea and Malaysia. If let's say there are SI companies from Korea, you will have to be a member of CAR to be able to talk to the SI players in Malaysia. So the SI players in Malaysia will be a member of MIRAS as well. So under this Korea-Malaysia Collaboration Framework, we will try to facilitate our SI to go into at least 5 market sector for the SI. Number one, I would suggest we focus on the services sector. Number two is to focus on the manufacturing sector. Number three is to focus on the agriculture sector. Number four is to focus on the construction sector. And finally is on the mineral sector. So these are basically on the demand side for SI businesses in Malaysia. So looking at the collaboration framework in terms of the supply and demand, I'm sure the Korean companies would like to look at Malaysia because Malaysia will be able to offer a lower production cost for your selling in Korea. Malaysia can provide a lower labor cost. Our financial cost is lower. Our logistics cost is also low. Our tax incentive is also low. There's also government incentives, and also the cost of doing business in Malaysia is relatively low or not. On the other hand,